And the same principles apply to what they did with SEO, search engine optimization. It's just taking a different, just different platforms. All these tools want to surface the very best information. So that's what it's about, creating that best information that adds value, because there's so much generic out there. You've got to add something new and unique to the conversation, so it shows up.
Welcome to the Your Message Received podcast. And now, taking your message to the finish line, your host, John Duffin.
Hey folks, John Duffin here with Duffin Media. Welcome back to another episode of Your Message Received. Your Message Received is the home, the place, the platform to help you find your most true, most authentic business voice. Heck, maybe we'll just say your most true, authentic voice. Get what you want, find what you need, improve your results, make billions of dollars. That's what tonight's guest has promised all of our viewers and listeners. Or maybe he didn't promise, but the fact of the matter is, our guy has done some great things, and we are thrilled that you keep coming back, folks. Keep watching, liking, sharing, listening, all that sort of thing. And I think the reason that keeps happening is that we get to keep having guests who walk the walk. Tonight is no exception. Our man, Wes Towers, is the founder of Uplift 360. Uplift 360 happens to support tradespeople and construction-related businesses, big and small, on their journey for growth and online success. Wes also happens to be a published author. His book is called The Simple Manifesto. And one of the reasons I wanted to have Wes on the show tonight is simply because there's been this crazy infusion. I broadcast in the United States. Wes is from Australia. This has become this global phenomenon of construction, blue-collar businesses, of how the industry is realizing the importance of those industries and the potential, not just for the industries, but for these developers, in essence, to build these businesses up to incredible levels and scale them as well, too. Wes, it's great to have you. Welcome.
Thanks so much, John. That's a wonderful introduction. I hope I live up to the big expectations now.
You already have, man. You showed up. That's the good part. Wes, what got you into the field at all? I mean, overall web design and that sort of thing. You've run businesses in the past. What got you here?
Yeah, look, so when I was studying in school, websites weren't really a thing. So you have the career counselor and so on, and talk those things through. But back in the 90s, obviously, well, not obviously, hopefully I look younger than that, but it was the 90s. And so I did graphic design, multimedia at university, and went on to work in marketing, and things have changed super fast. It feels fast, but it's the year 2000. I got my first job in marketing, and they'd never designed a website. They had one computer connected to the internet on a dial-up modem. It was an award-winning marketing company in Sydney, the Olympics year, and never touched it. So they won a project to do a website, and they said, "Right, you're the young guy. You better figure out how to build it." So I did that site and got into websites from there. Which was a great learning opportunity. They gave me plenty of time to learn, but eventually started my own business. And my study at uni, as I said, was graphic design, multimedia. So I did a bit of that and a bit of websites. Had no idea how to run a business. I was really solid and comfortable with my skill set, but the business side of things was something I had to learn and learn the hard way, because I was working in the marketing industry, but I was behind the scenes, working behind a computer, very rarely spoke to an end client or customer. So a lot of that stuff I had to learn the hard way. And I was naturally a shy person, particularly in those days. But to cut through, you got to kind of get yourself out there. So that's what I did.
Wes, you're saying in terms of the University of Marketing in Sydney in the Olympic year, what were the tasks? Like, what did you feel like you were good at? And what did you feel like then, you know what, this is the direction I originally want to head? Like, what was it? What was marketing is such a broad term.
Yeah.
I do marketing too. What did you feel the things that interest you, fascinated you, that you wanted to do more with?
Yeah, I always enjoyed the blend of creative and the technical aspect. It's sort of the way I'm wired. I've got these um, different aspects, and it keeps me engaged. I really love the creative design aspects, but I love the technical, and it's just felt like a perfect match for me. Doing websites and so on, and because it's the tech is changing so fast, it keeps me engaged in that as well. Because if you stop stagnant for a moment, particularly in the last few years with AI and things rapidly transforming, it's an exciting and terrifying space to play in. I'm loving it at the moment. So, yeah.
Hey, I got to go back to the one thing you said a couple minutes ago when you were saying, well, obviously, and you're like, well, hopefully not obviously, because I hope I look younger than that. The answer to that, at least from my angle, was you do. So I didn't want that to just be, sent off into the atmosphere. I wasn't thinking, oh, obviously, just for the record. But man, like, there were so many different directions. Like, I remember for me, I came from a career when I started, I was in the sales aspect of advertising. And when I think about how I never thought my field plodded along, I never thought that. I always felt like it was a fast-paced industry. But when I think about then to now, it's almost foolish how things have sped up. How were you able to keep up or not from the marketing side originally?
Yeah, well, originally things felt like they were moving fast, but as I said, the last few years has been crazy fast.
Yeah.
What I discovered that I enjoyed the human. I said that my weakness was the connection and relating to people, but once I developed a few skill sets and got a little bit more confident, I found the human aspect of business was the thing I enjoyed probably even more than the creative and the technical. So,
Right.
and so yeah, so your greatest weakness, sometimes you work on it so much that it becomes your greatest strength, and that's certainly what I found. And right now, the human connections has never been more important because we're living in a information rich, flooded market where people are publishing, mass producing content that's not genuine or authentic. It's just mass produced through AI platforms. And so you got to cut through. And the only real way to do that is to build trust. I believe trust is the new currency, and to build authenticity so people will want to work with you. And that's certainly true of our clientele, the trades and the construction. People want to be able to trust them because obviously sometimes they haven't had the greatest of reputation. So they've got to stand out and be someone trustworthy, effectively.
I would think, right, that on both sides, that it's developing trust because others feel guarded with what they have or what they've done. For you, what did you have to go through to get to this point?
Yeah, well, I had 3 years ago, I had a business valuation done. And so it came back a lot less than what I would have thought it would. And the valuer, it was obviously 3 years ago, was just sort of the start in a lot of ways for AI, and the realization for a lot of people that it had the potential to flip things on its head, particularly businesses and my business being, so I do websites, I do SEO, that's online stuff. And it was becoming obvious that it might change things. So he had to put a low value based on the fact that there was so much uncertainty. But it was a real blessing in disguise because it forced me to think about, okay, what's the trajectory of my industry? How can I best serve my end clients? What do they still need from me, despite what the process and the tech does?
Right.
What is it in me that I can serve the end client, being construction trades, and double down on those things and really build solid human connections, which, as I said, they're the things that I valued the most, the human aspect of business, connecting with people. So just double down on all of that and realize, hey, what I'm doing and learning is so important for our clientele as well. So to help them do the same thing, to reach people in that human, authentic way.
Why did the construction industry matter to you?
Well, that was really by accident. I don't.
Yeah.
So we were doing websites for anyone and everyone
Sure.
for a long, long time. Like most of us do, you get an opportunity and you take it because you're just starting out and you do what you have to do.
Mm-hmm.
But over the course of time, I realized the majority of our very best clients were kind of all the same industries, the same kinds of people. And I'm not sure precisely why I connected with them, because I'm useless I can't pick up a hammer and I can't do any of that stuff. I'm 100% useless at all of it. For whatever reason, I really related well to them. And I think maybe it's just their nature of being pragmatic, practical, hands-on people. I'm kind of that way, but just not on the tools, so to speak. I'm really practical and pragmatic and down to earth. So they just related to me really well. And I try to avoid techie jargon and that sort of stuff, which kind of repels a lot of people. So I guess the relational aspect meant that I could communicate them and just spend the time to understand them really clearly. And you start to learn about, if you're focused on a niche, you get to really understand what they do, but more so what the benefits and the outcomes they're achieving for their customers, because that's what's really important. It's not really about the tech stuff for them either. It's not about how you hammer a nail. It's about what it produces as the outcome for the end customer. So it's probably true of every industry, the outcomes focused. But when you're niched, you really get to understand what those benefits are and the outcomes people are trying to achieve.
Do you think that's possibly one of the reasons that those industries felt comfortable with you?
I would say so. Yeah, I would say definitely that would be the key catalyst why I did really well in it. And so eventually I kind of learned a lot about the various aspects of trades and construction.
Right.
Various people come through, and what works in one in a business might translate reasonably well to the next. And so you can get some really quick wins, which is obviously fantastic. In the early days of working together, there's less backward and forward, even of, if we're designing the website, we kind of know roughly what people might like and want, and what will engage really well. So, there's it's really helpful, particularly in the construction field. Sometimes they're not really wanting to be behind a computer too much. They want to be out doing what they do best. So to nail it really quickly is really.
I like the way you went there. You're nailing it really quickly part. I got you. I see what you did.
Nail it. Yeah, true. Yes. I didn't mean that, but let's
there you go. Wes, one of the things that I find that you had said it a few minutes ago, but already that sense of no one needed you to be hammering nails to make you more relatable to them. But it's funny because, like, industries that are inside industries, I don't mean inside the house. I mean inside in the sense that they are a little bit protected, shielded, in terms of how, like I said, what do you think were the ways that you spoke with them or the results that you generated that got their attention so that they were able to extend trust with you? Like what were some of the things? What are some of the things that matter to a field like that?
Yeah, well, I think, it started out just listening deeply. And I think that's a skill I learned from my dad, who was really good at sales. Just he really spent the time to understand the person, not necessarily all the other specifics, but to understand the individual, the person. Once you kind of grasp them, it's so much more helpful to move forward. Another little thing, I was talking to a solar company guy, solar panels.
Sure.
He was doing the large commercial solars. And he gave me an interesting tip. He said when he's hiring people to work in sales for his solar company, he never hires anyone with any experience in solar. And I thought, wow, that's an interesting perspective. And he goes, yeah, because I don't want them to know too much technical. If they know all the technical stuff, they start talking too much technical jargon. I don't want them, they don't need to know that. They need to know how it benefits the end customer. So they might be interested in saving money on their bills, for example. It's the energy, or it might be that they're environmentally minded, so they see the benefits of the green energy, and sometimes a combination of both. But that's what people are buying. They're not buying how the gigawatts and the this and that and the other. And I thought that was a powerful lesson that I learned from him. I don't need to know all the details of how they do their production, but what I do need to really understand is what the outcomes are, and focus on those, and to really draw that out of. Sometimes it's difficult to draw it out precisely out of people, but because of doing it so long with this niche, I get to find out fairly quickly because I know the right questions to ask now.
I think that's so important. I love that you said there's a colleague of mine in the United States. His name is Lance Bachman. And Lance was on my podcast. He also is a monster in terms of scaling businesses like roofing and HVAC and that sort of thing. And that's one of the things that he had shared with me, not just on my podcast, but I did a brief consultancy with him, which is, no, I don't need overly technical. I don't need overly technical roofing geeks to be, and knowing each of the layers and all that stuff. And he said, I never did. He said, and his words, he goes, I never did. But it's critical to know what people need and how to draw it from them. Now, you just said a minute ago, hey, it's in the questions that I ask. When did you realize that you were able to, in essence, crack the code? Because there is a way of speaking to somebody. I've watched it in automotive sales, and I talked about with my colleague, like I said, mentor and colleague Lance. There's a way, and once you crack the code, it's almost a foolproof way of being able to get trust. When did you know that you were able to crack the code?
Yeah, well, interesting way you put it. So I feel like I'm continually cracking the code. It's like there's even greater, continually learning. I think the understanding that simple scales but complex fails. So to understand that was the book you mentioned that I wrote a book. It was 10 years ago now, but it's The Simple Manifesto.
Nice.
Just realizing to simplify things just makes life so much easier in a lot of ways. So that would be part of cracking the code, to simplify and to help other people distill down their message as well. There was a client I was really struggling with. He was in a niche, construction-related niche,
right?
But I just couldn't grasp exactly what he did because it was kind of so out of the, like it was so different to what anyone else was doing that I was aware of. And he wasn't really much with words. He didn't like talking too much. So in the end, he ended up just videoing projects as he was doing them, completing them. And he was just roughly describing. And all of a sudden, it was just him talking through and swearing and everything else, the Aussie way.
Oh, there you go. There you go.
Yeah, and so he would just show. And then I could say, right, I can see now what you're doing, why you're doing it, what the outcome the client is wanting to go for. He's even mentioning locations, which is great for SEO and being found in a local region. And so we could take that transcript and we could take the transcript and make it into a polished blog post, news, publish that in his website. His traffic went through the roof because all of a sudden we knew what he was up to and why he was doing it and what the outcomes were because we could see. And he'd published the videos on YouTube, etc. Right. It was in his voice and language, and swearing for him was fine because of the people he works with, and that's part of who he is. So that's fine. We didn't have the swearing in his blog posts. It was a little bit more refined, but it was still congruent with who he was as a brand, a personal brand, as the founder of his company. So, yeah, interesting the ways in which you can glean the insights and information out of people. Sometimes there's different methods you can try.
I think that's so cool. I like the fact now you just said a moment ago, we didn't leave the swearing in the blog posts and stuff. Weird question. Why not?
We could have done, but it just didn't feel...
Curious.
Yeah, it didn't... I don't know. We did talk about it. We did speak about it, but he didn't really want to, and we sort of felt like it's slightly more professional. It's still genuinely down to earth and gritty, I suppose you would say. It's still reasonably gritty, but just no swearing. If it was in the frequency in which he swore, then there'd be every second word.
Wes, I don't swear a lot. I like the fact that you tried to keep it true to him. You know what I mean? You cleaned it up a little bit, but you still kept it true. That's like to me, the whole point of authenticity, just that sense of making an authentic, legit story. I especially love when you said, I was never quite sure what he did until he started doing the videos, and then you could see it. And then you say you just put a lens on him or put a mic on him or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And all of a sudden sales go through the roof. What did that teach you?
Yeah, well, we started to look at that as a strategy for lots of clients that were finding it difficult because, I mean, sometimes for our niche, they're super busy for one, if they're still on the tools, depending on the size of their business. Sometimes you're dealing with a marketing person within the organization. That's a whole different story. But if you're dealing with a founder who's work their way up through, apprenticeships and on the tools, etc. They're not usually wanting to have a big conversation and they're really, really busy. So to get this information quickly. And so the other thing too, just like the tools these days, you can record phone calls. I'll just say, I'm just going to record this. So we can quickly go through a lot of information on a phone call, record it just with the laptop I'm sitting in front of, just put it on voice, and and so we can grasp a lot of information in a short space of time, and then I can kind of figure out and distill it down. Take the time because they're just so busy. So you just got to make it as super simple and as easy as possible for the end client because they've got other things to do, and they should be able to just hand it on to us, to trust us to create the outcomes for them.
So from that sense of you starting there, did you find the pace accelerated for you for Uplift 360? And for instance, let me say that better. Is this when you jumped out on your own? These initial things that you were doing, or were you still with a marketing company?
No. So once I left the marketing company, I worked for myself, and I just did what they were doing at the marketing company because that's all I knew. And so I did everything for everybody. Didn't niche in till sort of halfway. So been operating the business 20 years, probably 10 years ago, started to slightly niche in, but that became more and more specific over the years until this point. Probably 4 or 5 years ago, really zeroed in really closely. We've still got some legacy clients, and that's fine through other industries, and sometimes we'll take on other things. But really, the focus, what we do very best, and I always tell people that's what we do best is the trades and construction. So occasionally other projects come through, and just because they know me or something, and we might do it, but we can't give that same level of outcome, or not guaranteed to create the same outcome. They need to be more focused on the exact messaging because we just don't know their industry all that well.
What gave you the guts, we'll say, to niche out that tightly 5 years ago? What was it that was like, you know what, we're just doing this. We've got our legacy clients, but we're doing this.
Yeah, it was a scary. You're right. It feels like you're cutting off so many opportunities. So that's obviously the fear. But I've been telling people to focus in on what you do best. You're guiding people to market, and then I thought, man, I got to take my own medicine and be brave enough to do the thing I'm telling everyone else to do. So it's kind of funny that I felt maybe a little bit slow to the party, but what I found is it just creates more opportunities because you get known for the thing you do best. And then the other real big win from it is they're your happiest customers, clients. So they become raving fans. The referral network off the back of that is powerful because they're all that, and you're dealing with happy people all the time. So when I was dabbling with anyone and everybody, because you don't really know what they do and so on. You do your best to understand. You're not always got the same level of happiness from the clientele, so for good reason. So yeah, it's much more streamlined now.
I love that. For me, for my own business, it took me at least, I've been doing this for a little over 5 years, and it took me the first 3 of the 5. I came from a career in television advertising and streaming advertising sales. That was 25 plus years, and I was everything to everybody for at least the first 3 years. And the problem I learned for me was nobody really knew what the hell I did.
Yeah.
And I cut off the arm of what I used to do because I didn't want to be confused as still doing that. So
Yeah.
all these years and nobody knew what I did. And it wasn't until I niched into that it started to work. And God, I hated it. I hated it. I did
Yeah.
not want to cut off all the opportunities, as you said, but I love the fact that you said, but all these happy customers and your referral base blowing up and all that
Yeah.
sort of thing. So
Yes.
how, in the sense that I don't know what it's like in Australia, but I would say in the United States, 2 buzzwords that you can't get out of the way of are we specialize in AI and we specialize in the construction and roofing and HVAC industry. So now everybody wants to be their best friend. So obviously
Yeah.
it helps that you've had a head start. Obviously it helps that you've had and built relationships, open the spigot, have all these happy customers. How do you keep it that way?
Yeah. Well, that's a good point. So that I guess Australia might be a little bit different to the US because it's a far smaller market. So I mean, I
Well,
realize
even more
over
so
there,
then. Yeah,
yeah.
even
So
more so.
people can really niche to it, like just roofing over there, for example, HVAC.
Right.
I know some people that I listen to that talk on YouTube and the like. They really drill down to HVAC, for example.
Yeah.
Yep. I don't. That might be too tight here. I don't know. We can serve clients in all around the world, and we've got a few internationally. But just
Cool.
so fast trades and construction is broad enough to capture enough of the industry, but narrow enough to be still a niche. We haven't found a lot of niched agencies here just yet, so I'm kind of fortunate. But I realise it's a growing trend in other parts of the world for sure. So I'm fortunate I haven't got that noise of other niche people in my field. I mean, there might be another couple out there doing exactly what we do, but not really. So I'll just keep that between you and I.
That's not what tell us all. Shh. Nothing. Hey, folks, everybody watch and listen. Shh.
Yeah.
Right now, but then I'd ask instead, how have you tightened up your game in regards to the things? Look, that I know that you specialize not just in web design, but like customized bespoke website design, and you lean hard into AI and SEO. What are some of the things that matter? Or I'm sorry, let me say that better. What are some of the things that you're able to optimize AI with? Because again, everybody apparently is an AI expert. How are you really an AI expert, and how do you get results?
Yeah, well, that's so true. I mean, it feels like every company just added AI to to its end or its service page or
Right?
what have you.
And AI. Yeah, right.
Yeah, so it is funny like that. So the way I look at it, AI is just a tool to create the same outcome we were always trying to achieve. In terms of the process of building sites and optimizing sites, it just allows us to do things a whole lot faster. That's one aspect. But also the other aspect is, which is more AI as the end service, is to get brands to show up in large language models. So we had a really great win maybe a month ago now.
Yeah,
with,
tell me what you mean.
Yeah. So a client, we did only a tiny little SEO program for him. He was consulting to plumbers and trades and the like. So he fit within our niche because he was approaching the same market. And we were fortunate to get him to his business and brand to show up when someone was having a conversation with their ChatGPT. They were asking for what he does, precisely what he does, but they said, we want the very best in Australia. Who is it? And he came up as number one. So this is a
Really?
company. Yeah. So we're in Geelong, just outside of Melbourne.
Yeah.
This company is in Brisbane, I believe. $140,000 contract just off that one search or conversation on ChatGPT. He'd be showing up a whole bunch of other times. Brand mentions it. The challenge is because there's no need to visit the website in these platforms. Usually, you don't know where they've found you. But he had a conversation. Obviously, and said, "Hey, how'd you find me?" And they explained the conversation they had with ChatGPT. So they're the sorts of things we're trying to do to help brands show up in all the right places with how things are moving. And the same principles apply to what they did with SEO, search engine optimization. It's just taking a different platforms. All these tools want to surface the very best information. So that's what it's about, creating that best information that adds value, because there's so much generic out there. You've got to add something new and unique to the conversation, so it shows up. So that's what we're doing.
Did I hear you right? And that any that not web design, but having a website is not as critically important as it used to be. Did I hear that correctly, or was I mistaken?
No, I wouldn't say that. I'd say it's once there's someone ready to make a buying decision, they're going to do one of two things. They're going to visit your physical shop front, if you've got one, or they're going to visit your digital shop front, or probably both if you've got both. So your digital shop front still is your website. So all the other messaging out there is ideally to draw people to your website, because that's where you control the message. And so once they get to that point, they're probably closer to a buying decision than they ever have been, because they've done their research outside of websites. And so once they're ready to buy, and we're talking about large investments typically for our clientele, so they're going to check your website out and check that you're who you say you are, and all the validation of your credentials and all of that kind of stuff that you can control in a website. So just a different sort of level of importance. Once they get to your website, you've got to convert them because there's less people coming.
So here's what I would say. For those that have not or don't feel as if they've caught up, businesses, I mean, and we'll say in the home services industry, or construction is so broad-based too, whether it's commercial or residential or whatever, that's such a large-scale home service industry. But what I would ask is, for those that feel as if they're behind the curve, and most people still feel like they're behind the curve, like that everything's moving so fast, what are some ways that they can accelerate in regards to bringing their business to more prominence, so they at least stand a chance of keeping up?
Yeah, 100%. So the website itself, I'm obviously biased because that's what we do.
Sure.
Get a website and hire me to do it.
But it's not just give yourself a shiny new website. It's like, what would it be? What are the dynamics? What are the things, that people would tend to look at and look for?
Yeah, so anything that's social proof that validates you are who you say you are, because anyone can say anything about themselves. So Google reviews, all that kind of stuff that can't be artificially created, that's all powerful. And you've got limited capacity to influence it, but of course you can ask for reviews, etc. But to have the website clear, concise, compelling, the clarity always wins. So that's got to be your core pages of the website. So that serves one purpose, so people can grasp what you do really, really quickly, because they're rushed. Their attention spans have never been shorter. So you've got to be really precise with that. But then behind the scenes, you have your news and your blog, and that's the opportunity to really flesh out lots and lots of content. And people are not going to read all of it, but when there's something really of use and of interest to them right then, That's when the large volumes of content the right stuff will surface to the right people, because there's platforms will guide them there. So that's the opportunity to give the people what they need, the information, but also to train AI with who you are, and to make sure you're seen as the expert and authority in the space you play in for the region you serve as well.
I love that. You. Speaking of news and blogs and stuff, I'm checking out one of yours that was from this past month, I believe, where you talk about no cheat code. And so one of the things that I was curious about is where you talk about there is no hack.
Yeah,
people need hacks. What are you saying? So what do you like? I said. So what are you saying in regards to that sense of if there's no hacks? And you talk about why LLMs are a game changer. How are businesses able to implement that in terms of a way that they could go to their website and clean up a couple of things and make it work for them?
Yeah. If we used to think about keywords, so you used to try and have a set of keywords that you try and rank for, and so they'd be really simplistic. So the service and the location typically, or the product and the location.
Right.
Plumber, Melbourne. But now that's not necessarily how people will search, and they're not even necessarily using Google. They know that the platforms understand full context. So to think about keywords as topics rather than words you're just trying to cram into a page. And so for one topic, so plumber, Melbourne, you could come up with a whole range of topics about different things that people might need. So they might have a broken toilet. They might have a leaky tap. They might have an emergency, some flooding scenario.
Right.
There's lots of things that people might need a plumber for, and you need to talk about all of these things so that you can show up for that precise thing. So it's a volume game, but not generic volume, because that's the same as everyone else. And if you can mention, most of our clientele will service a particular region. So the more you can talk about the specifics of what the region you're serving is really helpful too. So all of a sudden, we're in Geelong, just outside of Melbourne, as I mentioned.
Right.
So it's reasonably easy for most of the people here, because there's only going to be, depends on the business, but there might be 3 or 4 competitors. So you only have to be better than those 3 or 4 competitors, So all of a sudden, and that's the beauty of niching too. So all of a sudden you can be a big fish in a small pond. Really hard if you're targeting, trying to be a small fish in a big pond. It's really small really difficult for a small business.
What with data? As data remains so crucial, it's the only thing, at least in my own humble opinion, that makes a story worth hearing. It's not just the sentimentality, it's not just likability, but the fact is there has to be teeth to a story. What have you found in terms of ways to weave data into a story that's more compelling, rather than taking a bucket of numbers and just basically throwing them at somebody? How have you learned, or over the last several years, or in 2025 or whatever, how that you're able to better craft a story with data?
Yeah, so that's a really interesting space to be playing in right now, particularly from where we were a few years ago to now, because obviously from my industry, we do websites and we try to get them to show up to get as much traffic as they possibly can, targeted traffic. There's less traffic because people are getting the answers on Google AI overviews and the research, ChatGPT, any large language model. They're doing the research off your website, where they once needed to go to a website to find out the information. So we had to have that conversation with a number of clients to say, well, yes, your traffic is dropping. It's dropping for everybody. But what's the key data metric that you really want to measure? That's the sale. It's showing up in your bank account.
Right.
Sometimes you need to have that conversation with the client to find out, hey, how did you first hear about us or find out about us? and they soon realize that it's probably been multiple touch points to get to where they got. Sometimes they forget precisely where they first found a company, but it's really important to understand that typical journey so you can be showing up in the right places. So the data is helpful, but it's almost a proxy to the real world. So we're finding lots of our clients in the Google Analytics is
right.
what we show people. We're showing them, obviously, Google is typically still the leading traffic drawer to websites. There's been a bit of social media that's been happening a long time, but now you're seeing ChatGPT bringing in a few visitors as well. And so the discussion with clients oftentimes when we're trying to help them understand the data is to say, well, if you've got 20 clicks through ChatGPT this last month, you've probably shown up, 200 times, because your brand will show up so many times, but there's very little reason to visit your website unless they're really ready to buy right now. So,
yes.
So you're showing up a whole bunch of places you don't even realize. And so, yeah, it's a proxy to say, okay, we got 20 visits through ChatGPT, but to understand the context of what that probably means is valuable.
Humor me for one example that I'm curious about, that as a business leader and you're speaking to businesses, navigating business, and I'm going to ask, of course, I don't want proprietary information, theirs or yours. But what I do want more so is an example of when you're sitting with a business. Whether it's the old school they used to call a kitchen table. Well, nobody does that anymore. But what I was at, maybe they still do. But these large businesses or construction or whatever, and you're sitting in front of somebody, typically, do you have a flow in regards to the way that you craft emotion and or logic and numbers and or like that sort of thing in your mind as you are speaking with somebody, rather than just like what they used to call a sales pitch, which I don't think anybody can stomach anymore? How are you able to navigate it? Because you've got very numeric, technical data. And so do they, and they have very outcomes. You kept using the word outcomes, which I love. How do you, in your mind, is there a way that you craft a story? If I was going to say, could you help another business owner? Could you help someone be better at their business? How do you typically craft a story?
Yeah, so it is interesting. So a lot of the calls, we're not at the kitchen table or even the boardroom very much anymore. We're on Zoom,
right?
And so on. So online meetings. Initially, when those sorts of tools became more the expectation, I had great slide decks and I would show people all the information. But and this might not be true for every business, but I found people's eyes were just glazing over, and you could just see, well, you're showing them relevant and useful information and discussing what it might mean, but it didn't sort of grasp people the right way. So the way we do it now, so I'll do a quick video review of that Google Analytics, for example, and I'll draw out key insights. So it's me talking. So I've realized for our clientele, if I can just show them on screen, it's fairly crude. It's just me, just speaking it through and explaining the value of what's improved, what's changed, and what we need to spend our attention on for the next month. It turned things around dramatically. So the quick video, but then of sharing screen and showing them the data of what's happening and what we need to improve. But then just to have the regular meetings of face-to-face, no slide deck anymore. I'm just trying to connect with the human and just trying to pick up on what I can sense that they might need in those conversations. I just found that the slide decks became a barrier and some sort of resistance. So I still send them the information, but just present it in a different way.
I think it's brilliant, and I'm learning as I feel as if in order for business owners, for me to keep evolving, I used to use them as a crutch. big, bulky slide decks and and all that sort of thing. And as you said, the glazing over part was very real. And we would talk small talk and chatter and all that stuff, and then bludgeon people with data, and then go back to small talk. And they were so lost, not because they weren't smart. They were most often smarter than us. I'll speak for me, but then it was just ill-timed, too much, and that disconnect. So I love the fact that you keep bringing it back to the human touch, right? Because
and that's the part of the challenge if you have come in with a set slide deck, because you've got a process that you go through. But there's so many different personalities. I deal with a lot of the clients, disc profile. There's so many different profiles, but when you've got those people that really just want the short and the sharp, we just got to get to that end thing really fast, where others are more, they want to have a more of a deep and meaningful conversation, and that's fine. So you got to sort of tailor what you're doing. It's sort of the same information. It's just either condensed or expanded upon. So you've got that flexibility without a slide deck. So
I love that. I'll ask you one more question for the moment. So, well, no, I'm lying. 2. What did you just call that? The short and the?
I don't know. I was just riffing.
I love it. I'll go back and replay, but I just love the term, but I missed the last word. The short and the sharp, like you were talking about.
Expanded, did I say? Did I just say expanded?
I'll find. I just liked how it sounded. All right, that was one. Let me get like a real question. Look, what would you say for your own business? What's one of the things that you're looking to do to improve yourself in regards to staying current, relevant, and mostly authentic?
Yeah, well, I've just leaned in on my team more and more with because I'm fortunate that my team are technically minded, so I've got that real benefit that they can help stay ahead of the curve to be on top of the technologies, tools and technologies, because they're in it regularly. So, but that's freed me up greatly. I'm still on top of what they're doing, and they'll educate me. But to free them up to do what they do best, so I can do what I'm meant to be doing and engaging with people, because that's the true value that I can bring personally as part of my small team. So, yeah.
That's awesome. Wes Towers, I'm delighted that you made time for me tonight. Look, I would ask you as well, too, we will have your website up, uplift360.com.au, and folks, you won't have to worry about copying my words. It will be in the bio. We'll make it easy for you. That's the best way to find you?
Yeah, absolutely. From there's all the socials that people like to engage, and even my personal LinkedIn is there. I'll connect with anyone who wants to.
Oh, and I can validate, folks, it works, because I was perusing all your stuff already, too. So I saw it all works. Lovely. Wes Towers, thanks so much for showing up for me, man. I really appreciate it.
I appreciate it, John. Thanks for the chat.
100%. Folks, you've just heard another episode of Your Message Received. Keep liking, watching, sharing, and we will keep driving content through your front door. John Duffin here with Duffin Media. Thanks so much for tuning in, and have a great evening. Be well, all. Bye.
And now, making its way across the finish line, Your Message Received has been a production of Duffin Media.